Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today is a wonderfully unpredictable Tuesday, exactly the kind of day that puts me in the perfect mood to dissect the absolute emotional roller coaster we've been watching. Grab your strongest cup of coffee, find a comfortable spot, and let's dive headfirst into the magnificent, messy drama that is currently tearing our favorite family apart. Okay, I've been thinking about this and my brain is just spinning in circles regarding the Dupree family, specifically Vernon and Anita. I've been staring at my notes for hours, trying to make sense of what is fundamentally breaking down between them. This is what's been bothering me. We are looking at two people who are the absolute bedrock of their family. They are the pillars. But right now, those pillars are showing some serious, terrifying hairline fractures. We all saw the tornado. The literal, physical tornado that ripped through their lives, leaving absolute devastation in its wake. But maybe the tornado is just a painfully obvious meteorological metaphor for the internal chaos that's been brewing. I know, that sounds super cliche, like basic literary analysis, but basically, you can't ignore the environmental storytelling here. The physical storm has passed, but the emotional storm is literally just touching down. Strange, really strange. The whole thing is strange. Let's talk about Anita for a second. Anita is still undergoing cancer treatment. Cancer. That's a massive, life-altering, physically and emotionally draining reality. But somehow, because of the tornado and the immediate crisis of survival, her cancer has been temporarily pushed to the background. It's like her own mortality had to take a back seat to the immediate structural and physical damage of the storm. How does that even work psychologically? You're fighting for your life on a cellular level, but you have to pause that existential dread because your roof might cave in. Oh man, what was the latest episode number? Around that time when the storm hit, you could see this subtle shift in her eyes. A kind of compartmentalization. She boxed up her illness to be the strong matriarch. But you can't just box up cancer. The psychological toll of that suppression has to be immense. Is she overcompensating? Is she trying to control the family dynamic because she has absolutely zero control over the rogue cells multiplying in her own body? And then, right in the middle of this suppressed trauma, we have the Cot and Eva situation. Cot has decided to donate a portion of her liver to Eva. Let's just pause and unpack the sheer magnitude of that. A partial liver donation is not like lending someone a sweater. It is a major, invasive, life-threatening surgical procedure. It's an act of profound, almost terrifying sacrifice. Why Eva? I know why they are doing it medically, but what is the underlying emotional currency here? Is Cot doing this out of pure, unadulterated love, or is there some sort of survivor's guilt mixed in their post-tornado? Maybe it doesn't matter, but I noticed that whenever the surgery is brought up, the camera lingers on Cot's posture. She always seems incredibly tense, almost rigid. Or maybe I'm just projecting my own anxiety onto her. But basically, this decision is the catalyst. It's the match dropped into the powder keg of the Dupree family's current trauma. Which brings us to Wednesday, the upcoming Wednesday episode. The spoilers and notes are pointing to a massive disagreement between Vernon and Anita regarding this exact situation. Now, Vernon and Anita disagreeing is not inherently a big deal for a normal couple. But they aren't a normal couple. They are the Duprees. They are usually a united front, moving in perfect synchronicity. When they make a decision, it's like a joint resolution passed by a flawless governing body. Not very often do they find themselves on opposite sides of the battlefield. But when it happens, they usually figure it out, right? They compromise. They find a way to reconcile, but this feels different. The notes ask if this disagreement is going to cause serious trouble for them. Honestly, yes, I think it's going to be catastrophic. Or maybe not, I don't know. Actually, let me think about this. If Vernon is against the surgery and Anita is for it, or vice versa, It's not just a disagreement about a medical procedure. It's a philosophical war about survival, sacrifice, and bodily autonomy. Let's assume Vernon is the one pumping the brakes on Cott's donation. Vernon is a protector. He just watched a tornado tear his world apart. He couldn't stop the wind. He couldn't stop the destruction. He is feeling fundamentally impotent as the protector of his family. And now, his daughter wants to voluntarily put herself on an operating table, risking her life. To him, that might feel like an unnecessary gamble when they've already lost so much. He wants to conserve the family's resources, their health, their safety. He's operating from a place of scarcity and fear. But that doesn't explain why Anita would oppose him. Or wait, is Anita the one opposing the surgery? Okay, I know I just said the opposite, but listen to me. What if Anita, the one actively fighting cancer, is the one terrified of Cott going under the knife? Think about it from Anita's perspective. She knows the fragility of the human body better than anyone right now. She is living the nightmare of bodily betrayal. The idea of her perfectly healthy daughter willingly allowing a surgeon to slice into her organ. That might be completely intolerable to Anita. She might be projecting her own medical trauma onto Cott. She might be thinking, I am fighting every single day just to keep my organs functioning, and you are going to give yours away. It's a textbook case of cognitive dissonance. She loves Eva, surely, but the maternal instinct to protect her healthy offspring might be overriding her logical empathy. Is her illness silently dictating her perspective on the family's life or death decisions way more than she's willing to admit? Absolutely. It has to be. You don't just go through intense cancer treatments and maintain a perfectly objective, detached view on elective, life-threatening surgery. And then there's the silence. The notes mention the silence between Vernon and Anita after the storm. Is it peace, or is it the calm before a bigger rift? Let me tell you, in this kind of deeply rooted family drama, silence is never just peace. Silence is a weapon. Silence is the accumulation of unsaid resentments. They survive the tornado. They check the literal pulse of their family members, and then nothing. They stop communicating. Why? Because talking would require acknowledging the sheer terror they just experienced. It would require Anita admitting how weak she feels, and Vernon admitting how scared he was. So they built a wall of silence, pretending it's a foundation of strength. But silence is porous. The resentment seeps through. This disagreement over Cott and Eva is just the first major crack in that wall. Is this debate really about Cott's liver, or is it a cover for a deeper Dupree family conflict? I'm leaning heavily towards the latter. The liver is just the MacGuffin of their emotional trauma. The real conflict is about control and legacy. Who gets to decide who sacrifices what for this family? Vernon might feel that as the patriarch, he should bear the heavy burdens and make the tough calls to keep everyone safe. Anita, as the matriarch facing her own mortality, might feel an urgent, desperate need to dictate the family's future before she's gone. They are clashing because they are both trying to steer a ship that has already lost its rudder in the storm. The liver donation is the iceberg they are arguing about while the ship is already taking on water. Let's look at their history of being a united front. When a couple is always in agreement, it usually means one of two things. Either they are genuine soulmates who share a single brain cell, which is incredibly rare, or one person is constantly compromising their own truth for the sake of harmony. If it's the latter, the tornado and the cancer have completely stripped away the luxury of compromise. You can't compromise on survival. You can't compromise on a liver. So, the masks are coming off. Vernon and Anita are finally looking at each other not as co-managers of the Dupree family, but as two terrified individuals with vastly different coping mechanisms. Would you agree with that? Probably not entirely, but the psychological implications are staggering. So what's going to happen on Wednesday? I am predicting an absolute emotional meltdown. Not a screaming match, because the Duprees are too dignified for that kind of theatrical display. It will be a quiet, devastating, surgical dismantling of their marital unity. Vernon will say something seemingly logical but emotionally hollow. Anita will respond with something deeply personal, weaponizing her illness without even realizing she's doing it. She might say something like, "You don't understand what it's like to have your body fail you," completely invalidating Vernon's own emotional trauma of watching her suffer. And Vernon will retreat further into his stoic, authoritarian shell. It's a classic miscommunication dynamic, but elevated by the absolute life-or-death stakes of the situation. But wait, maybe I'm overcomplicating this entire thing. Maybe they really are just stressed about the surgery. I mean, anyone would be. It's a liver. You need that to live. It's right there in the name, okay. That was a terrible joke, but you get my point. Maybe the writers are just playing it straight, and it's a standard medical dilemma plotline. But that doesn't explain why the notes specifically highlight that they rarely disagree and ask if it will cause serious trouble. Shows like this don't highlight a rare disagreement unless it's going to fundamentally fracture the foundation of the narrative. The writers are planting seeds. The tornado was the fertilizer. The liver donation is the water. The giant, ugly weed of marital discord is about to sprout and choke out everything else. How does Cod feel about all this? Imagine being caught right now. You make this incredibly brave, selfless decision to save Eva, and instead of your parents supporting you, they use your sacrifice as a proxy war for their own unaddressed trauma. That's got to be infuriating. Cod is essentially becoming the collateral damage in Vernon and Anita's Cold War. Will Cod go through with it anyway? Probably. In fact, their opposition might just push her to do it faster, out of sheer rebellion. You guys can't control everything, she might think. And Eva, poor Eva. She's literally dying, needing a piece of an organ, and she has to lie there knowing she is the source of the Dupree family's implosion. The guilt she must be feeling is probably astronomical. It's a completely unfair burden to place on someone who is already fighting for their life. Let's rewind a bit and really put ourselves in Vernon's shoes, because I feel like I might have glossed over his internal state. Vernon is a man who is used to fixing things. That is his core identity. If something is broken, he repairs it. If someone is threatened, he shields them. But how do you fix a microscopic cellular mutation in your wife's body? You can't. You can only sit in sterile waiting rooms, reading outdated magazines, pretending you aren't terrified that the woman you built your entire life around might not be there next year. That kind of chronic, low-level panic fundamentally rewires a person's brain. It makes you hyper-vigilant, so when the tornado hit, it was almost a relief in a sick, twisted way. A tornado is a tangible enemy. You can board up windows. You can rebuild walls. Vernon could finally do something. He could take action. But now, the dust has settled, the debris is cleared, and he is right back to being helpless against Anita's cancer. And into this void of helplessness steps Cod, offering up a piece of her liver. For Vernon, this isn't just about Cod's safety. It's about his desperate, clawing need to prevent any more loss. He cannot lose Eva, but he absolutely, categorically cannot risk losing Cod. The mathematics of his grief just won't allow it. He is trying to balance an impossible equation where every variable is a person he loves. And on the flip side, let's look deeper at Anita's potential motivations, because her psychology right now is a labyrinth of fear and maternal instinct. We talked about her projecting her illness onto Cod, but what if it's even more complex than that? What if Anita is looking at her own mortality and thinking about her legacy? She has spent her life nurturing this family, building this interconnected web of relationships. If she dies, who holds the web together? The thought of Cod undergoing a major surgery might trigger a primal fear in Anita that the family's structural integrity will collapse before she's even gone. She might view Cod's intact, healthy body as a symbol of the family's future survival. To compromise Cod's physical health is, in Anita's compromised, anxiety-riddled mind, akin to compromising the Dupree legacy. She might be arguing against the surgery not just to protect Cot, but to protect the idealized, whole version of the family that she desperately needs to believe will survive her passing. It's an incredibly selfish form of love, disguised as maternal protection. It's fascinating, honestly. It's like she's so afraid of the family breaking that she's willing to break her marriage to Vernon just to maintain an illusion of physical wholeness. Ultimately, this whole situation is a masterclass in layered tension. You have the environmental trauma of the tornado, the chronic medical trauma of Anita's cancer, the acute medical crisis of Eva's liver failure, and the interpersonal conflict of Vernon versus Anita. It's like a perfectly constructed pressure cooker. And Wednesday is when the whistle blows. I am genuinely terrified for the Dupree family. I want them to resolve it. I really do. I want them to sit down, hold hands, cry, and make a rational decision together. But let's be real. Where is the entertainment value in that? The silence is definitely not peace. It is the absolute terrifying calm before the hurricane. The tornado was just the opening act. The real destruction is going to happen inside the walls of the Dupree home. Strange, really strange. I guess we'll just have to wait and see if my crazy theories hold any water, or if I'm just completely losing my mind overthinking a fictional family's medical decisions. Probably the latter, but hey, that's what we're here for, right?